Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to tonight's live webinar series for the Investor Agent Training Program. It is Tuesday, January 12th, and tonight we're going to go over proper analysis of potential flip properties, okay? Just a quick brief recap. Last week we went over 2 or 3 of the calculators for analyzing rentals. We gave examples of that. And the week prior to that, we went over the very beginning, which is, your contact management system, building it, maintaining it, exercising it so that you profit from it. And we went into Module 1 just ever so briefly to re-emphasize the use of the school report, melissadata.com, and your local planning commission websites. That's the kind of stuff you guys should practice on your own because practice makes perfect. It's all free. It doesn't cost anything to do that stuff. And really a lot of the answers to your questions will come as a result of you actually exercising some of the parts of the program, okay? So in any case, let me check here real quick for questions before we get into tonight's content. Let's see, this is somebody's telling me I'm going in and out. Let me check here on my end. So far everything appears to be okay. Let me do one more thing here. Hang on one second before we get into too much detail. Audio. Okay, looks like the speaker and the boom are working, the mic's working. Let me just check and see if I've got other comments about that. I want to make sure we're okay. Let's see, that was from Donna and from Loma Linda. Hey, Donna from Loma Linda, good to hear from you, good to see you. Tim's here, hi Tim. So Donna, if you're on a headset yourself, maybe try unplugging your headset and see if your computer speaker system is working well enough for you. And if you have a speaker system plugged in, not a headset, unplug that and see if you usually have a little speaker right on your laptop, right on your computer. If you have a desktop, you can even unplug it and replug it in. So far, it seems like everybody's okay here. But I want to check for other questions before I move into the content. So hang on one second. And I think we are okay. Yes, we are. Okay. All right. A couple quick points here. What I'm going over is from the Investor Agent Training Program, Module 2. Okay. We do have another training program that's geared specifically towards flipping. And from time to time, I actually will pull content from that module or that training program and other training programs too, like how to buy rentals. I don't know that we'll do that tonight. That actually still being the flipping program is we've actually developed it, and all the transcriptions have just been not fully published to the public, but the proofs are out. So for those of you who went through the development program for flipping, within a matter of a few weeks, you should have that coming into you on your computer. Okay, so hang on to your seats for that. Okay, tonight's subject. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about how do you actually determine what is a good flip? What are the steps that you go through? Now, we make some assumptions. Assumption number 1 is I'm assuming you've already exercised the school report, melissadata.com, and the locating your local planning commission websites. If you remember, we had a gentleman on last month in December. His name's Robert, and we went over some tools you can use that are online to help you determine in your own specific areas what your local planning commission websites are, zoning boards, and also licensing websites where you can see who has their their chiropractor's license or dentist license and so forth. All right. It was all sent out, and I think we copied it, we put it on the website, and we sent it as an attachment to the back of that email that had the recording of the webinar in there. So look for that. Go back to December. Look for that recording if you're drawing a blank and replay it because it's good, awesome information. So back to tonight's subject. I'm assuming tonight's subject is assuming you've already gone through the school report, melissadata.com, and planning commission website to see where it is you and your client should be flipping properties. Okay, so let's say we've done that, and we've even drilled down further, and now we're going to go out and actually look at properties. So I'm going to start you off here in a few moments with the process that you go through with your clients who are flipping properties. I'm going to show you exactly what you do with them to get you to the point where you actually have properties to do more thorough analysis on. Okay, so let's get started here. You can see right away the subject for tonight is flips. I'm not going to go into all the details on this page here because we're going to get into some stuff that's going to be more pertinent for tonight. The bottom line is that we're going to talk about ARV, which is after repair value. I give a basic example up here, but I'm going to show you a real example a little bit later on. So don't worry, I'm not skipping past this. You're not missing anything yet. Okay. The bottom line, though, I want you to remember, and you should write this down. All right. No matter what your fair market value is in your area, wherever it is you or your client are flipping homes, okay, you've got what's considered market value. On average, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in any particular neighborhood, they all should be selling for around the same price. Okay, same thing with a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. They should all be selling for around the same price. It's usually a range of values. Now, under no circumstances should you ever spend more than 70% on that property. In other words, if you're buying a property and you believe it would sell for $200,000 when you're all done remodeling, that's after repair value when the remodeling is complete. You should not spend more than 70% of $200,000. So in other words, you should not spend more than $140,000 if you're going to flip a $200,000 property. All right, and we'll get into that a little bit more. I just want you to write down that magic number is 70%. Your cost basis should not exceed 70% of the after repair value of a property. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get into the step-by-step instructions of what you do when you first get a relationship going with a flipping client, an investor who's going to flip a property. All right. So first thing is this: you've done your homework. You know where your flipper should be flipping. You're going to share that information with your clients once you get the clients. So where we are now is step-by-step instructions for working with these clients. And this is assumption number 2 is that you've done your marketing to attract these investors, and you've attracted the right kind of investor, okay? Somebody who's preferably qualified and doesn't have to borrow from every Tom, Dick, and Harry, all right? Yes, they're out there, and of course in Module 4 we give you techniques on how to actually find these guys. So assuming you found yourself a flipper, the first thing you want to do is once they've contacted you because of your marketing, you want to get them on a telephone conversation where you're essentially interviewing them, okay? And that's what I used to do. This is how I did every single client I ever had. I interviewed them before I ever really agreed to work with them, all right? So let's say you got them on the phone, you're going through the interview. The first thing you want to find out is, what are they interested in? Are they looking for flipping, or are they looking for rentals? They want to buy rentals. In this case, let's assume they said, hey, I want to flip homes. I've looked at everything. I like the concept of flipping a home. So now they want to flip homes. So now what you want to do is make sure that they're qualified. You want to ask them questions like, how much money do you have in savings? How much, what is your credit rate, if you know what that is? So you want to know if they can qualify for a loan later on. You also want to ask them, do they have any available credit right now, like a line of credit that they can use? In case of business owners, they can have a business line of credit available to them, okay? Now, once you've established that, and hopefully the answer is yes to all 3, now you've got a qualified candidate. Nothing better than have a qualified candidate. It's like now at this point, all you've got to do is execute, and you should be able to get them under contract and earn a commission in short order. So here's what we do. Assuming you've had the conversation with them, you've interviewed them, I also have them send an email. So you want to have all of your prospective clients recap the conversation you've had with them and send you an email recapping that conversation. Remember, you don't send them the email, you have them send you the email. And the point is, you want to get them used to following your instructions, okay? So now you've got a qualified candidate who's also following your instructions. That's the kind of relationship you want to have. So let's say they send you the email, it recaps the conversation, you know how much money they have to spend. You've done your homework, you can show them how to determine what areas are best areas to flip in. And next thing you want to do is set them up on a search on the MLS system. this is just one source of information for people flipping homes. Okay, it's not the only thing, but obviously you've got access to your MLS, so you should utilize it. Because in many parts of the country, you can find inventory on your MLS that's suitable for flipping. So they send you the email, you set them up on your search, and by the way, another step in here that's not in here is I always send them a return email with a buyer's agency agreement, making sure that I've got them under contract to work with me. I'm their agent and they're a buyer client. Now, in the case of flippers, I actually do something a little bit special. What I do is I tell the flippers, hey, I'm going to help you find the right property to flip, and I also would like to have the listing when you're done remodeling. I get that agreed to up front, all right? So now you've got a great flipper who's going to be flipping a home, hopefully more than one home, and you've got multiple commissions coming already. This is why I love the flippers, by the way. I know that the flipper has to sell his property. I know it's going to sell because it's their capital. Capital is the lifeblood of every business, and they have got to have their capital back to redeploy it and do another flip. So I know I'm going to get 2 commissions from every flipper. All right, and I also may get a 3rd commission because 30% of the time, all listing agents actually procure the buyer, the end user buyer. Okay, so you could potentially get 3 commissions from one deal. All right. In any case, back to this. So you get them under contract, you get their email. Now you can set them up on a search on the MLS system, and you may be let's say you're in Orlando and you're down in the Lake Nona area. Okay, I'll be teaching there Friday actually. So you set them up on a search for properties that are in a specific price range in a specific school area. Okay. And depending on where you are in the country, you could, or North America, excuse me, you could use the school system code. You could use the high school code. Okay. In the case of Canada, you can use the area, just the MLS area. All right. So there's a number of things you can use. The school report, we call it the school report because the most common criteria is school district. In any case, so you set them up on the search. They start getting their properties. They get initially a batch of properties. And it's a lot of properties. Maybe it's 100 properties, okay? Now, remember, I always give them the full listing with photo and the whole 9 yards. I don't hold anything back. I don't give them a partial listing or the short view or the realtor's view or email view or any of that kind of stuff. These are investors, and you want to give them all the information you can possibly give them. The more information you give them, the more successful they're going to be, okay? By the way, which means that's the more successful you're going to be. So they get their first set of properties, all right? The next thing we want to have them do is we want to show them how do they narrow that list of properties down to, say, maybe 30 properties, okay? Now, here's how I do this, all right? And this is where I am right now. I'm right now on line number 5 at this line right here. So make sure you're paying attention, you're taking notes, and review this. And by the way, practice makes perfect. I would repeat this over and over again because the more you do it, repetition is the mother of success. But the first thing I do when I'm going through all this list of properties, if I'm an investor, or in the case of if I'm using my license, I'm representing an investor, I'm having them do this. So they would go through all the listings, and I'm going to have them compare the asking price or the list price of the property to what we believe is the fair market value for the area. Okay, now many listings have this. Every property has what's considered a fair market value for appraisal, fair market value for taxes, or just plain old fair market value, okay, according to the tax assessment database. So whatever that is, you want to compare your list price to that value. Now, if you're in parts of the country where they use a base year, and they're using a value from a base year, you've got to be aware that that value could be from 1962, for example, okay? So if you're in one of those areas, or if you're in an area where they're using a percentage of value, like 25%, taxes are based on 25% of market value, as long as you know that information, you can still calculate what your current perceived market value is for the neighborhood, all right? One of the easiest things you can do, though, guys, is if you're working in a particular area, do a series of CMAs to see what values are, and then you'll know what the values are, okay? But the bottom line is this, back to the exercise. You're comparing the list price or the asking price for the property with what you believe was perceived to be the fair market value for that type of property in that area. If the list price is at or above that value, I'm going to discard the property. I'm no longer going to look at it. And the reason is, I know it's harsh, but I'm only going to spend my time, and I'm only going to have my clients spend their time on the properties that are most likely to produce a good capital gain on a flip. All right. So the reality is, if you have a property and the asking price is more than what market value is for the neighborhood, why would you even waste your time? Don't waste your time working with that seller. They've already demonstrated that they're unrealistic. Okay. Also, the chances are the house that they have doesn't need a lot of work on it. It's not a good candidate. There's not a lot of range of value that can be added through remodeling. So in any case, we're eliminating the properties that are priced at or above the market value for the area, and that'll take care of a bunch of them right out of the gate. All right, now you're left with a list of properties that are priced at or below market value for the area. And now you're going to start looking at pictures of the property. This is your client doing this again. They're going to be looking at the pictures of the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the bedrooms, the bathroom, the landscaping, the basement if there is one, the garage, you name it. And what you're looking for is, how likely is this property going to be as a seller? Is it going to be an easy sell? Does it have a standard size lot that's relatively flat? Either at or above average size for the neighborhood. What does the exterior look like? Is it newer? Is it brick, or is it newer vinyl looking siding versus old aluminum siding or old clapboard siding? Those properties are going to require a lot of work, and they're not nearly as appealing. All right, so I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at the sizes of the bedrooms. Is there a den or a family room? Is there a attached garage or integral garage as opposed to detached? Is it one car or two car? Here's what really is important when you're at this step, guys. The property you want to flip, if you're found the right area, your property should be in a line with the other houses in the area. In other words, if the majority of the other houses are 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses, and you've got the only 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, it's going to put you at a disadvantage. So you always want to look for properties that are in alignment with the majority of the properties in the area, particularly the ones that are turning over. Okay, if it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, then that's what it is. If it's 4-bedroom, 2-bath, then that's what it is. You're trying to go with the numbers. You want to have the highest probability of attracting a buyer to sell that property quickly and for the most money relative to list price. Okay, so I'm looking at the pictures. I'm looking to see how dated is the kitchen. How about the bathrooms? Is there decking? How does the deck look? All of those indicators I'm looking to see. Did they lend this? Does it make the property look like a really good potential sale if we've remodeled it, or is it still going to be a challenge to sell because it's on a hill, or everybody else has a 2-car garage and this house only has a 1-car garage? Those are the kind of things you're looking for at this level. So you eliminate more and more of the properties. All right. So you do this in a couple of passes. This step number 5 here. And what you're trying to do is get down to about 10 to 15 properties, all right, if it's possible. Now, depending on where you are in North America, if you're in areas like, say, Atlanta, the Midwest, parts of Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, you'll have a lot more properties. And when you get to 30, when you have your list down to 30, go ahead and do your drive-bys at that point, and you're going to eliminate more properties from your drive-bys. If you're in areas like, LA, San Francisco, Toronto, Massachusetts, you're going to have fewer properties, all right? So you might want to get your list down to 15 properties and then do some drive-bys. But the bottom line is, you want to narrow your list of properties down as much as possible. And the reason is you're going to have to go through these properties to do a physical analysis, all right? And it's going to take some time. And you only want to do this on the properties that, based on a desktop analysis, have the highest probability of returning a good capital gain. All right, so it's definitely a sequence of steps you follow in the right order, and you partly do the math. You let the math dictate where you go next, and also partly your intuition. All right. So, in any case, let me do a quick pause here and see what we have in the way of questions before, because we're getting to a point here where it's a good breaking point. And before I wrap up and do this next section, I want to check for questions. So hang on one second. Let's see here. Okay, it looks like we have, this is from Peter. Hi, Peter. How you doing, buddy? Peter says, hi, Gary. When you send the listings to investors, do you include the info on the listing broker too? Yeah, it's funny. I've had a lot of people ask me that. I do. If you have the type of MLS system where it's not required to do that, or you can send them a full listing without disclosing that, feel free. But remember, Peter, we have these people under contract. You don't work with them until they sign a buyer's agency agreement with you, all right? And the other thing, too, is if you've done the right thing, if you've instructed them, and you've informed them, and you've educated them, and you're giving them all the tools, the analysis to use, they really should have no reason to go anywhere else. I know that's the concern, is if they see the listing broker, maybe they'll go there directly. But that's why you want to get them under contract. Okay, this is from Kelly Boyd. Kelly says, our market is very hot. I'm not saying that there are no deals. However, when there are, they will likely get multiple offers. Will you be going over some strategies for finding and purchasing properties at foreclosure auctions, other roads less traveled? Yeah, Kelly, and there are other methods you can do. Like if you use the letter campaign, that's the one I give you the exact wording in the free offices at the Keller Williams offices. Use that letter, because that letter is not just to be used to find owners of rentals. That letter is very adaptable to FSBOs, expireds, divorce, probate, foreclosure, bankruptcy. All of those people, all of those candidate sellers, you can find them on your county court system. Okay. Now we went over that back. I forget when it was, Kelly. I can't remember exactly when that was, but there's there's websites you can go to. Matter of fact, if you Google and find your county court system, you should be able to go to the dockets, to the files, and have access to who filed what against whom, and you'll have the person's name, number, and address on both parties, plaintiff and defendant, and that applies to anybody that's in probate, foreclosure, bankruptcy, family court in the case of divorce, you name it. All right. So yes, we do go over that, Kelly, just different modules. You can also remember you can go visit small local banks. Use banktracker.com. In fact, I'm going to show you that tonight because I had a student question on banktracker.com. So I'm going to bring that up here in a minute and show you guys that and remind you how to use it. So Kelly, you can use banktracker.com to find small local banks who have foreclosures. Okay. And you can kind of beat the crowd, so to speak. Let's see. Next one is Kelly again. Okay, difficult to find properties of 70% of ARV in the main channels. Yeah. So what I'm doing right now, Kelly, what I'm describing here is basically mainstream stuff that you can use in any market. But what really is going to set you apart is basically the answer to your last question: is using these alternative methods to find sellers of properties who are likely to sell. And another caveat here, I want you guys to take a deep breath for a second and slow down your minds, because I'm gonna tell you something that's going to change a little bit how you look at flips right now. And here's what it is. Most traditional methods are teaching people to find the properties in distress. Again, bankruptcy, foreclosure, divorce, probate, you name it. Okay? In a tight inventory market where it's hard to find really good deals, what the really good savvy flippers do is this. They don't compete for the really low price stuff, okay, the stuff that's priced well below market value. What they'll do is they know the neighborhoods, because they use tools like melissadata.com and planning commission websites. They know what's going on in the areas, and they know what's going to be happening in the areas 1, 3, and 5 years down the road. And so what they'll do, Kelly, and for everybody else, is they'll buy properties much closer to ARV, okay, because they're not necessarily going through bankruptcy or foreclosure. They just happens to be a house that maybe people have lived in for 20 years, 25 years, and the kids are grown, and they're looking to move, and the place is decent. It just has 20-year-old kitchen and 10-year-old carpet. Nothing really major, but more importantly, It's in a great area that allows for what I call value increase. And what I mean by that is this. Instead of you just doing a traditional replacing cabinetry, replacing carpeting, doing windows and things like that, what these investors are doing is looking for opportunities to change the floor plan, change the look and the nature, the character of a property in a dramatic fashion. So they'll knock out walls between kitchens and dining rooms. They'll knock out walls between dining rooms and living rooms. They'll add multi-tiered decking, not just a basic square deck. They'll go out the back of the kitchen or the dining room or the den with some pressure treated or the new decking. Go down a level maybe to a raised stone patio, and then down to 0 level ground clearance. Some parts covered, some parts not. It's an awesome way. Decking adds tremendous value to a property. They'll also do things like the material. They won't just do hardwood flooring. They'll do bamboo, or I've even seen bamboo in the ceilings, for crying out loud. They'll do things like that. The reason is maybe they only got the property 10% less than ARV for the area, market value for the area, but because of the improvements that they know they can make, they know they can push the market by an additional 10%. And that's where they make their money. They're not making big killings, but they are making money, and they would rather make 10% in decent neighborhoods where they can make a lot more money. The dollar amount is greater than the median price home range. It's just the percentage is lower. They would rather do that than compete with every Tom, Dick, and Harry for the median price flips. That's what I want to describe to you. It's a little bit of a caveat here, kind of off what I'm describing here tonight, but I wanted to make sure you guys know to be aware of that, because they're doing it now in San Francisco, they're doing it in Toronto, they're doing it in LA, they're doing it in Washington, D.C. Those areas are very high priced, and they have to do that type of flipping, all right? So in any case, back to this. And if you have another question, I haven't gotten to it, don't worry, I'll get to it here in a minute. But back to this. So let's say now you're down to the final set of properties. You've done some initial analysis. You know the property is priced right to be able to remodel and sell for profit. Now you're going to go look at the final batch of properties and do analysis. You're not going to look at 30 properties or even 15 or even 10. You want to get it down to no more than 6 properties, okay? Could be 4, could be 7, but essentially somewhere between 5 and 6 properties, because your client's going to have to do the physical analysis on these properties, all right? And this is why flipping has more risk than rentals, all right? Because you can't be impatient. You got to take your time. You got to be creative, and you have to be really fully aware of what you're seeing in these properties, all right? So we go through, your client does a drive-bys. They send you the listings that they want to go see. You help them narrow it down. You make the appointments to go see the final set of properties. Could be 4, could be 6, whatever. You go into properties. You always give them the rehab sheets ahead of time, and I'm going to show you those here in a minute. Let them do the analysis. Let them do the inspection sheet and the rehab sheet. There's 2 sheets, 1 inspection, 1 rehab. You'll see them in a minute. And at the end of the day, you've done all those sheets, okay? And you got your basic math already done. Here's where the rubber meets the road, all right? What I do is it's right around step 9 and 10. Here's what I do at the end of the day. I'll say, well, Mr. Flipper, we've had a great day. We've done rehab sheets on 5 different properties. We know the math will work depending on what you come up with the total cost of rehab. I want you to go home, finish those off, and narrow it down to the top 3. If you can narrow it down to the top 1, that's great. But at least narrow it down to the top 3, and I'm going to call you at 9 o'clock tonight, okay? So that's what you want to do. Now, before you do that, here's where the magic happens. You're out at the final property. Don't ever say, I'll call you at 9 o'clock and I'll see you then. You're going to do that, but not yet. What you're going to do first is this. Say, okay, let's pull out these properties. We've done 5 analysis sheets. Let's compare the different ones and see which ones look most likely to succeed to you. And you eliminate more properties. You separate the wheat from the chaff. So let's say you start out with 5. You compare them either 2 at a time or compare one against the other 4, whichever you want to do it. And whichever one is comes out more favorable in the comparison, you eliminate the other one. So you're doing process elimination. Where it becomes difficult is sometimes people just can't make up their mind between the top 3 properties, and that's okay. What you do is now you say, okay, go home, finalize your details on the top 3. I will provide a CMA. You're going to go and you, the realtor, will do a CMA for them for the area and the type of property they're flipping to see what a range of values would be. You're doing your litmus test. Okay, that's where you come into play here. And you get on the phone with them at, say, 9 o'clock at night. By that time, they will have already sometimes made up their mind and says, Gary, I want to do this one here. The other 2 we'll wait on if we need to or whatever. In some cases, though, you have to help them through the final 2 or 3, and you can do that by providing the CMAs for those types of properties in those areas. So now you've done that. You're narrowed down. They have to decide on the final property, okay? And what you do is you say, that's great. I'm going to fill out the paperwork, and I'm going to send it to you through email or dot loop, whatever it is you're using, okay? And now you get your offer written that night. They have to give you the offer back with a photocopy of the hand money check, which is your earnest money deposit, and also a photocopy of a letter if they're getting a loan, basically an approval letter, pre-approval letter from a bank, or if they've already got a line of credit they're using, photocopy of a statement from line of credit showing that they're qualified and they can actually buy the property. Okay, those are the steps that you go through. Now, what I'm going to do now is show you some of these forms, okay? We're not going to go over in a lot of great detail. I'm just going to show you what they look like. Actually, before we do that, let me go over the MAO formula. So everybody write this down. Maximum allowable offer, MAO, okay? So MAO is arrived at with this simple formula. ARV, which stands for after repair value, and by the way, you get this in your guide, okay? It tells you what ARV is, tells you what MAO is. ARV is after repair value. It's basically what the property should sell for if it's in decent condition and remodeled, and it's at what we call market value. So let's say market value for an area is $300,000, okay? We know right away, we've already said this, we need to lob off 30% right out of the gate, okay, for cost, which is you've got to have some profit. So 20% is actually profit. In other words, we're going to reduce your ARV by 30%. 10% is overhead. That goes to fees and costs and so forth. And 20% is profit that goes in your pocket, goes in your client's pocket. Okay, we always want 20% profit. So now we now know we cannot spend more than, let's see, 30% we said, so that's times 3, that's $90,000. We cannot spend more than $210,000 on this property. So let's say ARV is $300,000 less 30% cost, that's $210,000. Now you've got to reduce it by the cost of your remodeling. That's what this less repairs line is. Remodeling, let's say remodeling is another $30,000. That takes you down to $180,000 that you can actually purchase that property for. So you would purchase it for $180,000. You would repair it or remodel it for $30,000. Now you're at that $210,000, which is exactly 70% of your after repair value of $300,000. Okay, that's how you calculate MAO. So MAO is $180,000 in that example. All right. Now, obviously, you're never going to start off offering your maximum level offer. You're going to have to leave some room for negotiating. Leave some cushion. And in a soft market, you can drop it down by 15%. In a hot, tight market, you might only be able to go down 5% or none at all. So you just offer them your MAO. Depends on where you are in the country. And this is, by the way, this is where the other alternate techniques come into play. This is where maybe your MLS is not able to provide enough good inventory for your flippers, so you've got to use the alternate techniques that we describe in Module 4. Okay, so far so good. Let me go down here to the first report. And before I do, let me stop and pause for questions again, so hang in 1 second. Let's see what we've got in the queue. Okay, this is from Ken. Hey, Ken, how you doing? Ken and Tammy from Northern Virginia. Okay, so Ken says, hang on, my cursor's giving me struggles here. Okay, so here's a problem in our area. DC metro area. Most flippers won't sign a blank buyer's agreement. They will only do so for a given property. Rationale is that there are lots of realtors they can work with on multiple deals, so they're extremely reluctant to sign with just one realtor for a fixed time. Ken, yes, that's right, Ken. So if you think back, Ken, to the very beginning of the training program, one of the things we really strongly emphasize is to not work with existing investors because they will drive you crazy. All right, I know because I've done it. Remember, what you're doing is you're building relationships with brand new investors. You're using the booklet, for example, to send out to airline pilots, to teachers, to public servants like firemen and policemen, to engineers who own their own businesses. There's a lot of types of engineers, to chiropractors, to dentists. And what you're doing is you're piquing their interest by showing them in a booklet. So the booklet is not designed to sell properties. The booklet is designed to get these people to raise their hand and want to do business with you. So in the booklet, you're going to provide inventory and also some tools that they can use. And also in the booklet, the aha here is this: when you only use business cards and little brochures and postcards and things like that, all you're doing is you're telling the prospective client what you can do. When you use a booklet, you're actually demonstrating. When you demonstrate what you can do in the form of tools and techniques and actual information inventory, it sets you apart from the other realtors. And if you've done your marketing the right way, you're going to attract these people from a position of them, they have not invested yet, but they want to invest. And we approach them based on the vocation area. We know the vocations that make the best investors, so we approach those groups of people using this type of tool to get them to say, hey, I've been wanting to invest, but all the other realtors, they just want to get me in a car and go take me to show properties, and I knew that was wrong. Or they don't feel comfortable. They don't have the right tools. You show up with the right tools. So the difference is, Ken, is this: if people call you out of the blue and just say, hey, just go find me a good deal, that should be a big red flag there, because what that means is they want you to do the work. And that's not a good relationship. They should be doing the analysis because they're the ones spending the money, not you. So I hope I answered your question there. The bottom line is you've got to kind of get past the filter of prior work experience and move into the world of you're building these relationships from the beginning, and you build loyalty when you do that. Okay, let's see. This is from Donna. Hang on one second. Connection continues to be bad, missing most of the words. Boy, Donna, I wish I knew what was going on there. Everybody seems to be okay. I'll listen to the recording tomorrow, but we've got the new boom in the headset here, and we've got a full connection. So it could be in the networks, Donna. I've seen that happen before. Okay, this is Bassam. Hi, Gary. How do we get the printout for the modules? The modules printout. Oh, so when you go into the website, Bassam, you have a link to the website. All the modules are there. You get the audio, video recordings, plus you get the actual written material. You can print those on your own. I wouldn't spend any money. I wouldn't pay to print this. I mean, you can order the manuals, but I think they cost like $500 or something. Quite frankly, I would just print them. I just would download the PDF and print them. That's what I would do. Matter of fact, that's what most students do. They get a binder, 3-ring binder, and they print it on 3-ring paper, and they make their own manuals. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay, this is for Peter. From Peter, excuse me. Peter says, for the checks, do you go and pick up the check from them, or do they scan it to you? I missed that part. Yeah, when you're initially making the offer, Peter, everything is electronic. So they're gonna scan and email the copy of the check to you, plus proof of funds, plus the actual signed contract. Now you can use, I personally like .loop and DocuSign and all that. That's what I recommend using. Okay. Now the challenge is you do have to get that check very quickly, not right away, but once your offer is accepted, you've got to go get that thing within 24 hours. So what I would do is I would make sure you see the photocopy of it or the scan so you know that it's actually written, okay? And then tell them that, once things get going here and you have an agreement, that they've got to be able to act very, very quickly. So a good question, by the way. Okay, let's see. Peter says earnest money. Yes, that was earnest money. All right, this is from Chris. No, hi, Chris. How you doing, buddy? Chris says, what type of properties do we search? Bank-owned, auction, third-party approval, corporate-owned HUD property? Yes, excellent question, Chris. So in your MLS system, there's two fields you want to focus on when you're trying to identify good candidates for flipping. And the one field is the ownership category. It's where you actually put in the owner's name of the property. In most cases, it'll be somebody's last name. In the case of a bank-owned property, it's going to say something like bank, bank-owned, REO, foreclosure, HUD, VA, all of those keywords, okay? Fannie Mae, so remember all those keywords, Fannie Mae, HUD, VA, Freddie Mac, estate would be for somebody who's deceased, probate, okay? So you want to look for those keywords, and also in the remarks section. So when you do your searches, you build in your searches in the remarks section, you put in those keywords there also. All the ones you could possibly think of. Bank, bank-owned, foreclosure, REO, in the same list we just gave you. You put all those in the remarks field and also in the name field when you're building the search. Because other realtors who put those listings out there generally are using one or both of those fields to identify the property as being a foreclosure or something like that. Okay? All right, this is Tim. Hi, Tim. Tim says, ask her to close some of her programs, too many windows open using memory. Oh, so Tim, Tim, thank you for doing that. This is for, let's see, Donna. Tim Martin is from the Philadelphia area, and he's suggesting that you close out as many programs on your computer as you can, because too many programs running could interfere with your picking up the audio. That's probably what's going on. What's happening is your audio is being queued, and their cues are being released in chunks, and that's why you're getting the skipping and missing. So, in any case, okay, back here. First thing you want to do, guys, when you work with flippers is give them these forms. This is a property inspection reform. When they go through, they're going to be writing down, they're going to be filling this out, everything that has to do with the property, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. I just want to show you which one to give them. Give them this one first, okay? They're going to fill it out, make their comments on what's good, what's bad, what needs attention, okay? And then the next one is this, the rehab form. So if you think about it, first one is inspection, property inspection report, and the follow-up is right there, right behind it at the same time, is property rehab form. So they're going to do both of these forms, and I prefer that they do them all there as soon as possible, right there on the spot. On the rehab form, sometimes you're not going to know a lot of the cost of these things. They're going to have to go back to their notes and figure out what it costs for a water tank, what it costs for a furnace, what have you. But remember, they fill out these forms, not you. You just give them the forms, and you give them the inventory, and you help them. You consult with it. You consult them, and you guide them, and you advise them going through the process of analyzing these properties. Okay. Now here's an old version of one I used to use years ago, and what I would do is I would build a spreadsheet, and I would take everything up here, okay, and I would put it down here, just a simple spreadsheet. So I would list all the different categories of things I would have to pay for. Heater, boiler, plumbing, electric, ceiling tiles, windows, roof, you name it. It's all in there. And I would put down what is it I believe I've got to spend on that, okay? And then have the item total off here on the right. Then at the very bottom, I could tally all that up. And you can see I had a rehab that I spent. Actually, I came within $100 of this estimate. I estimated it to be $28,119. I remember this one because I think it was my third flip, and I got it within $100 of budget. How about that? That's just an indication of how quickly you can master this stuff. It's not rocket science. It's just a matter of implementing a few basic strategies and taking action and basically repeating everything, practicing. Okay. So in any case, now we have our forms filled out. We've looked at the properties. Your client has the forms filled out. They're going to do something like this, okay? And they're going to call you up, or you're going to call them, excuse me, at 9 o'clock at night, or whatever, 8 o'clock, whatever you've determined is going to be suitable for your clients. Get them on the phone, go over the top 1 or 2 or 3 properties, okay? Narrow it down to the final one. I mean, if they can buy 2 of them, by all means, get 2 deals out of it. By the way, this leads me to another little tidbit here. Let's say you're working with a client and they have identified 3 really good flips and they can only buy 1. So let me ask you guys to shout out here in your question box. What would you do with the other 2? And let me see what kind of responses I get. And I know some of you know the answer because you've been in the program for quite a while. Bingo. That's it. Find another buyer. So what I do is this. Peter, yeah, ask if you can give it to another person. That's exactly right, Peter. So here's what I do. I build a relationship with these people right out of the gate with complete transparency. Everything's authentic. It's genuine. It's you see everything. There's nothing's scripted. There's no filtering. You get the good and the bad and the ugly. So what I do is this. I tell them, hey, if you're only going to buy 1, once we have it under contract, I'm going to take the other 2 and offer them to my other investors. I just want to make sure you understand that, because remember, these aren't your listings typically. They're other people's listings, and you have an obligation to the other clients too, your other clients. Now, generally speaking, you want to make sure they get the one they want under contract first. Make sure it's secured. Then you can quickly get these others in other people's hands or buy one yourself. I mean, let's face it. If it's a good deal and you're out there in this program and you're building up your cash flow through commissions and you're gaining valuable knowledge in the marketplace, at some point you're going to be able to buy your own property. And the reason I mention that is this. I can tell you from experience, when I was doing this, after the first year or 2, I no longer had to do analysis on my own properties. I had enough clients I was working with, 4, 5, 6 clients a week. Maybe I had 30 at any given time that I was kind of juggling. I had enough inventory that they were doing analysis on and they didn't buy it, that I could hand to other investors, make more commissions, and also buy myself. And I would tell them, okay, you buy this one once it's under contract, and I will call them back and say, now that you've got that under contract, I just want to let you know I'm going to go for one of those other ones before it goes off the market, because we would rather have our guys get these deals than other people, other people that we don't know. Okay, that's how I handle that. So good answers, guys. All right, now back to the ARV and the MAO. Remember, ARV stands for after repair value, okay, which is essentially your market value for the neighborhood for a decent property that's in marketable condition. Okay. And MAO is the maximum allowable offer, the most you should ever offer on that property when you're first purchasing it to be eventually flipped. Okay. All right. I think that is it. Yeah, for that section there. Now let me do this, guys. I had an email from a student earlier, and she was questioning how to use the banktracker.com. So let me go out here. I've got it saved up here. So let's see, who was that was emailing me? I can't remember who it was now. Doggone it, I'm drawing a blank. I just sent this email to earlier. But here's a picture of banktracker.com. It's live right now. I'm actually in it right now live. So look at the URL. I want you all to write down this URL. Again, it's in your training material. banktracker.investigative-reporting-workshop.org/banks. Okay? That's the exact URL. And what you want to do is, actually, let me give you a second to write that down, then we'll do a little test run here. So go ahead and write that down. Okay. And by the way, if any of you want to type in the question box a local bank in your area, give me the local bank. I'll type it in here, and we'll see how they're doing on their foreclosures. In the meantime, we got a question from Ken. Gary, I'd consider buying the other 2 or finding another buyer. Exactly, Ken. That's exactly right. Hey, Ken, by the way, it's January the 12th. If you and Tammy, if you have some time, like Thursday morning, give me a call, because I think you were gearing up to do your first workshop, and I want to circle the wagons again with you guys and go over the sequence of events for your first workshop. If you could, so let me know, Ken, in a separate text message or email what works for you, possibly Friday morning too. And let's make sure we go through the launch sequence so you guys are prepared for your first workshop. So, all right, thanks, Ken. Okay, this is Russ. So Russ, let's type this in here. Piscataqua Savings Bank. Oh, I love it. Sounds like a good local small bank, which was exactly what we want. So Piscataqua, and let's type in the rest. Piscataqua Savings Bank, and let's see if it finds it. I might just have to leave off Savings Bank. Is this it? Portsmouth, New Hampshire? Russ? It's got to be it. Okay. I hope I pronounced it right. Piscataqua Savings Bank, headquartered in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. There it is right there. Let's click on it, and let's see what happens. Okay. This bank has some foreclosures, Russ, but not a lot. So if you look at the national average, we're up now to September 2015, which is just a few months ago, and you can see the national average for foreclosures has gone way down. It used to be 15% was the average. In other words, guys, what this means is 15% of all mortgages in the U.S. were underwater. That's pretty scary stuff. But right now, the average is about 5.5% of all mortgages are underwater, or 5.9%. There it is, 5.9. Now look at this bank here. Only about 2 out of every 100 of their mortgages are in foreclosure. So the good news is, Russ, yes, they have foreclosures. The better news is that's a solid, healthy bank. That bank is the kind of bank that, for me personally, I would want to do my own loans with. I would want to get mortgages with this bank on my investment properties. So here's what I'd do, Russ. I'd go in and approach them and say, you know, I realize you don't have a lot of foreclosures, but it looks like you have just a few. I have clients who'd like to buy some of them. I'm not suggesting you change how you do your business, but if you wouldn't mind, maybe give me just one of them. Give me one of your foreclosures, and if I sell it in 30 days, would you agree to do business with me? Okay? So I think it was Kelly. So Kelly, this is one of the techniques you want to use to find inventory that's not always on the market, all right? Use this banktracker.com, plug in your bank name. In fact, I will Google whatever town you're in, Google banks, and see how many banks are there, get the list of them, and start plugging those banks in. And a real quick tidbit here on this lesson, you only want to go visit the small local banks. You don't want to go to the Bank of Americas and Wells Fargo. They're too big. They sell their mortgages on a secondary market, which means they have to follow FHA guidelines for disposing of their troubled assets. The small local banks are typically portfolio lenders, which means they service their own loans, and they have a lot more latitude in how they service their dispense of their non-performing assets. In other words, they can use folks like us. Okay? Let's see here. We're getting close to the end, guys. Let me see if there's any more questions. This is from Peter. Hi, Peter. Peter says, side note, I have a realtor in my office who didn't go through your class, doesn't want to go through your class, but wants all the information I learned from your class. It's funny how people are sometimes when money is involved. Well, Peter, be careful, because everything is copyrighted, and it's not just me. I mean, there's there actually is a publisher or editor and a publisher involved, and they are pretty serious about this stuff. In fact, the fine for copyright infringement or infraction, whatever they call it, infringing, is pretty severe. So all the training material has that copyright message in there. I don't know what it is. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But thankfully, most folks are honest like you, and we've had other students approach us, and I say, if it was up to me, I mean, bring them on. Bring them in as a partner, whatever. I'm glad to help, but I do have to be mindful and respectful of all the students who are doing it the right way and do the honorable thing, obviously, for the editor and publisher too. Yeah, they should just take. I mean, honestly, one transaction is going to more than pay for this stuff. My gosh, especially up where he lives, up where you guys are. You've got some great values up there. Okay, let's see. Dwayne wants to do First Federal of Lakewood, Ohio. Let's plug that in, guys, real quick. How do I get back here? Hang on one second. Let me go back key. That's First Federal of Lakewood. Okay. First Federal, is a First Federal Savings. Let me just try that. First Federal Savings of Lakewood. By the way, Dwayne, it's good to hear from you, buddy. Hope you're doing okay out there. Let's see. No results found. Let me just take out the savings here and see if that works. Still didn't like it. Let's do, there's going to be a lot of First Federals, so let me take out Ohio. Hey, Dwayne, give me if you have a more accurate name, let me know, because this tool, I mean, their claim to fame is every single bank, and so far I've never found one that I couldn't find on this website. Let me just try First Federal and see what happens here. I know there's going to be a million of them. Look at that. Okay, let's find Ohio here. Here's first. Hey, Dwayne, would it be Galleon, Ohio? Let me check Dwayne's response here. Let's see. Your sound has quit. Oh, no, not. Let's see. Pinnacle Bank of Nashville. Let's try that one next. That's Dorsch. Hi, Dorsch. Let me find the one for Dwayne first. Okay, First Federal. It's only finding the one in Galleon, headquartered in Galleon, Dwayne. So we can try that off the. If you want to try that off the outside of the webinar here, you might have to play with it a little bit. I mean, the spelling, you just got to get the exact bank name is what you've got to get. We'll do that, Dwayne. Okay, thanks, Dwayne. Well, let's try Pinnacle. Whoops. Pinnacle. Hang on, Dorsch. Let me go back. Pinnacle Bank of Nashville. Bank. Let's just try Pinnacle Bank first. 2 N's, that's 3 N's. I'm going to get rid of that. And 1 C and 1 L. Okay. Pinnacle Bank. Lots of Pinnacle Banks. How about that? That's a surprise. So we're looking for Tennessee. You know what? I just realized something. Your bank, even though you might be looking at a Pinnacle Bank or First Federal, they could be chartered in another town. If they have multiple branches, guys, you've got to know where they're chartered. They could be chartered in a different state. Look at all these Pinnacle Banks here. I'm pretty good with banking, and I never even heard of Pinnacle Bank. So I'm going to say these guys are probably, let's see, that was Dorsch. You're probably looking at either Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. Oh, here's one. Here it is, Pinnacle Bank, Nashville. Wow, Dorsch, you got a ringer there, buddy. They've solved the problems, but they're at the national average. In other words, 6.2% of Pinnacle Bank's mortgages are underwater. So Dorsch, this is a bank I'd go visit. All right, just calm yourself down, slow yourself down, be your normal, authentic, genuine self, business casual, and go in with a real soft approach. You don't want to go hit them over the head and say, hey, I know you got foreclosures, and I'm going to help you sell them. Let them know you got buyers, and you'd like to sell even just one of their properties. Let's give it a shot and see how it works, and try that approach and see if it doesn't work for you. Good catch there, man. Okay, let's see. All right, guys, I think that's about it. It's 8:04. Good class tonight. We managed to get through the subject matter, and we got to throw up the banktracker.com. And I wish I could remember the agent who emailed me earlier. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank, but hopefully she's on, or we'll get the recording, and we'll use this to her advantage. So, all right, guys, next week we're going to continue the series. Next week I'm going to get more into rentals again. I'm going to go back to the rentals and talk more about some of the analysis of that. And also, if you have questions, please submit them to me ahead of time if you can via email, because I can use them in the webinar. Also, for those of you who are getting ready to execute a marketing campaign like Ken and Tammy, please remember to reach out to me so we can have a quick phone call, a strategy call, to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. Okay, guys, hope you have a wonderful night and a wonderful week, and we will see you next week. By the way, let me give you the day of the week. Let's see. Next week is going to be Wednesday night, and I will be down off the Atlantic coast of Florida. So I'll see you all next Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good night, folks. Take care.